Horsing Around, brought to you by Roy Fry Western Lifestyles, dressing Northeast Kansas their Western best for over 57 years.
Hello and welcome to Horsing Around. I'm Dr. Chris Blevins. I'm an equine field service clinician here at Kansas State University Veterinary Health Center. And today we're going to talk about hay and roughage and what you should be feeding your horse. You know, we've had some really good questions that we've had introduced to us from clients this fall, and it's even probably going to be into the winter, about hay and different hay sources that they could use, because we all know that hay is getting fairly expensive, and you know, trying to be creative, or at least trying to make sure that we're feeding the good quality hay, but also being able to pay for that hay is also very important. You know, the biggest thing about horses, and we always have to remember that their basis of a diet is going to be some kind of a forage. And so we can sure add other things to their diet, but they really need, as a basis of what they need to eat, is going to be hay. Also remember that horses themselves are going to eat about 2 to 3% of their body weight in hay a day. And so you start looking at hay bales, that's going to be maybe 30 to 40 pounds of hay a day. And so that could add up fairly rapidly, and especially when the hay gets fairly expensive. Some people get kind of creative, or at least they try to potentially cut corners when it comes to the basis of what they need to eat. And so the quality of the hay is very important, and the kind of hay is also something that we always need to keep in mind and try to figure out what and how much we should feed our horse during a time frame. Most of the time during the summer, especially those ranch type horses, or a lot of people that have horses out, they're just having them out on pasture. But we know once it starts getting a little bit colder, the pasture starts to go down, that we have to start supplementing them with some kind of a hay or roughage type source, whether it's a round bale or a square bale. Now with round bales, the only thing that we really are kind of concerned with that is the potential mold source or the quality of the hay, and that could potentially cause diseases in a horse, whether it's due to coughing or some kind of other allergies, and sometimes or if you've ever heard of a thing called heaves, is another thing that could affect their respiratory tract. And so the quality of the hay is very important, and the round bales is one of those things that we really have to keep track of as far as mold, dust, and the aspects of what's in the center of the bale. So if you're going to feed round bales, always remember to check that bale out, especially the center of it. And if you ever see a lot of mold and dust coming from it when the horse is pulling hay out of the center of it, that you might be concerned, or even check more of the quality of those round bales prior to feeding the other subsequent ones. The other thing is going to be what types of hay. And I think that that's going to be a very good thing to kind of focus on, as far as there's alfalfa, brome, prairie grass hay in Kansas, and a lot of other native type of hays that we can feed. There's other hay sources too that we can kind of mention here later on. And hopefully by giving you a little bit more broad aspect of choices, that you'll be better in your decisions. When we come back from the break, we're going to talk again about the different types of hay, and maybe some other choices that you'd have and what to watch for. Stay tuned, and welcome back to Horse Around when we return from the break.
Horsing Around, brought to you by Roy Fry Western Lifestyles, dressing Northeast Kansas their Western best for over 57 years.
Hello and welcome back to Horsing Around. I'm Dr. Chris Blevins here at Kansas State University Veterinary Health Center, and just like the first segment, we're going to continue to talk about hay and hay quality and the different types of hay. In the first segment, we definitely mentioned the aspect of quality, whether dust, molds, and those kind of things that we could see in the hay. Not just in round bales, but you can also have that in your square bales too. So checking those things is very important to make sure you have a good quality hay to feed your animals or your horses. The other thing is different types of hay, and what is kind of the mainstay or most owners are going to use is the brome hay. And that's a cool season grass. Sometimes it's a brome or fescue mix, or maybe it's just a fescue type hay. Again, those are cool season grasses. They have usually a lot more sugars in it, a lot more calories than maybe like a native type of hay. So a prairie grass hay or a native hay is a warm season type of a grass, and that hay usually is a good source of forage, but it just doesn't have as much calories as that of a cool season grass like brome and fescue. The other thing that we could potentially use also would be the alfalfa hay. And the biggest thing to always remember about alfalfa hay is it's a good quality hay. It's just something that you need to keep in mind, that there is a possibility of a toxin. It's called blister beetles, and the only thing you need to really ask from your supplier of your alfalfa if it's blister beetle free. Because if it is not, a horse can ingest a very minute amount of it and it could become colicky, or even there is an aspect, if they ingest enough, that they could die from eating the blister beetles. So making sure you're conscious about the alfalfa hay, the source of it, and if there's any blister beetles in it is very important when you're feeding that to a horse with alfalfa. And it's not to say that we should not feed alfalfa to our horses, it's just to make sure that we don't have the blister beetles within the hay. Kind of along those same signs as far as the alfalfa is alfalfa cubes. Probably have been to a lot of the feed stores and have seen those. They're little cubed or compacted, compressed type of alfalfa product that are out there. The only thing we need to be careful with of those cubes is if the horse would bolt at their feed or try to eat too much at one time, they could choke. And so we don't want to make sure those cubes get stuck in their esophagus or their throat latch and choke on the cubes. So one way that you can try to prevent that would be to wet down the hay prior to feeding it to them to try to prevent the choking aspect. There's also other products you've probably seen at your feed stores, vacuum packaged hay sources, even bagged hay. Again, looking at the quality of those is very important. One thing is how green it is. The greener and the fresher it smells, the higher the quality is just by visualization and the smell of it. If it starts to get a more brown tinge to it, not really have any type of a smell, or maybe it smells a little bit bad or dusty, those things would be of a poorer quality. Again, you can also check your hay through your extension agent or ask them where you could go with your hay if you want to know how many calories are within it and what the quality is. If you have any other questions about hay or anything else, you can sure talk to your veterinarian, your extension agent, or here at Kansas State University Veterinary Health Center. I'm Dr. Chris Blevins with HorsingAround. We'll see you around.